It takes us a while to paint ourselves into a corner, and it takes us a while for the paint to dry and to get a clever way to get back out of that corner. And typically, if we do find ourselves painted into a corner, all we have to do is but look in our own hand, and we're the one holding the paintbrush. We are that person.
You may have heard the advice, when you're in a hole, put down the shovel. Similar advice holds true if you find yourself painted into a corner. The good news is that if you're feeling trapped in your life or career, you have the materials and the means within you to find your way out.
It's a path where you're not looking outside, you're looking inside, because we all have that inside. We have these, we all can be our own alchemist and change lead into gold.
This is Mark Wojcik, and I'm wondering, how's your so-called career? Welcome to So-Called, the podcast that explores the why and how of work. On today's episode, we meet Laurie Buchanan, holistic health practitioner, transformational life coach, and author. Her latest book, The Business of Being, Soul Purpose in and Out of the Workplace, has just been published. We'll talk about the book later in the show, but first I asked Laurie to describe what it means to be a holistic health practitioner.
An HHP, holistic health practitioner, is going to look at the integration of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects. We're not just one aspect. We are four aspects woven together. So let's just say, as an example, using it as an example, somebody is obese, 300 or 400 pounds overweight. That's not just a physical problem. There are some emotional and mental things going on too. I guarantee it. Possibly spiritual as well. I don't know. That's different for every person. And when I say spiritual, people often ask me this, well, what if I'm an atheist, or what if I'm agnostic? That's great. This for someone who doesn't look to an outside higher power, then that's your best self. Whatever that best self is, that's your, we'll call it deity. So when we look at this physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, the combination of thereof. So we're looking at all of these things as a unit, not as just the physical body, or just a psychiatrist or psychologist looking at your mental and emotional, or just a priest or a nun or a whatever, a pastor looking at your spiritual. It's the whole shebang.
Laurie told me she doesn't just like her work as an HHP, she loves it. Collaborating with her clients on an integrative basis is one of the things she enjoys most.
Anybody who works with me as a client, we're in partnership. I expect them not to take everything I say hook, line, and sinker. I give them homework, and I expect them to do it. I expect them to research. Anything you want to do, we all hopefully do our own research. So I use client because it's a partnership as opposed to patient, which is typically one way. But many times when a person sees themselves as a patient, they don't see themselves as a partner. They think of, this person is going to tell me what to do. They know all of the answers, and they're going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to swallow it hook, line, and sinker. And I'm board certified with the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. And so first of all, I don't prescribe anything. Not that I don't think that there's a place for traditional Western medicine. There certainly is. I work on an integrative basis with traditional Western doctors.
You mentioned earlier, some people might want to come and get a prescription, have a silver bullet about this sort of magic thing, this one thing that will fix it all. And it's seldom that easy.
It's just some hat that some people put on, and just many people, not all, and just give me the prescription, just give me the silver bullet, just get me out of here, I'll do what you say. And that's not how I work. No, it takes us a while to paint ourselves into a corner, and it takes us a while for the paint to dry and to get a clever way to get back out of that corner. And typically, if we do find ourselves painted into a corner, all we have to do is but look in our own hand, and we're the one holding the paintbrush. We are that person. Part of my job is to help people shift from the one with the most toys wins. You've probably seen that bumper sticker.
Yeah.
No, they don't. They
Mhm.
really don't. That kind of a thing. To be able to be your own alchemist, you don't necessarily go to a building where somebody else is saying, hola, 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 now you're good, now you're good. It's a path where you're not looking outside, you're looking inside, because we all have that inside. We have these, we all can be our own alchemist and change lead into gold. And I think that's what is so satisfying and fulfilling.
Do you think something is lost when we have a work self and a other self, a home self or personal self?
That is a great question. And I'm probably going to have two answers for that. So in the workplace, it's probably best not to bring home type conversations there. Just like when you get home, nobody in your family probably wants to hear about your work day.
Yes.
So that part, but the thing that I believe that translates across both is always to have that puck. Is it positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing? If I'm doing a task or I'm speaking to a group or bringing value, true value, honest to goodness value, that goes across the board. That alchemy goes across the board. That should not be, well, this is what I do at work. And maybe at work, I'm devious and I'm looking to gouge that person and mark my things up higher and rob people blind. And then at home, be sweet, loving, kind, and thoughtful. No, it needs to be positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing across the board, no matter what. So in that arena, I say there shouldn't be two selves. I love the word grace, and grace means something different to everybody. So I'll tell you what my definition of grace is. My definition of grace is the immediate presence of spirit, whatever that means to a person. God, Goddess, Yahweh, Jehovah, Creator, Universe, your higher self, whatever that is. And I think if we bring that if we bring grace, if we're gracious and we wear our grace as a cloak, no matter where we are, it's that immediate presence of spirit. And that's what we can take across the board. Workplace, whether you're a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a son, a daughter, no matter what familial hat you wear, no matter what friend hat you wear, no matter what hat you wear as in an occupation or a corporate setting, or whether you're pumping gas or scooping ice cream, it doesn't matter. By golly, grace is appropriate no matter where you are.
While she loves her work, that doesn't mean it's always easy. For Laurie, sometimes it's the difficult work, those tasks that stretch us, that can be most fulfilling.
I was told at a writing conference, which I do attend, that it wasn't just me. This person said it to this group of 500 people. And they said, okay, what are you writing? You're writing mystery, you're writing fiction, you're writing whatever it is. Now you're locked into that genre.
Mm-hmm.
And my red flags went up and said, oh no, no. My parents never realized that they needed to use reverse psychology with me. If somebody draws a line in the sand and tells me I can't step over it, the very next thing I'm doing is figuring out a way to step over that line. So when I was told that, I thought, oh no, and I'm currently writing a psychological thriller, which is way out of my wheelhouse. That is a stretch for me. That's hard. It's not like, I've got this font of knowledge, this wealth of knowledge in this area. And let me tell you, that is hard. So while it is rather enjoyable because I'm being stretched and I'm having to research, and readers are really smart. You cannot pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I'm finding it hard. Not that I don't like it, but hard.
Things that are, you learn a lot from things that are difficult. And if you like to learn, that can be fun.
It is. It's fulfilling. It's
Yes.
satisfying. It may not be woohoo, cotton candy at the fair kind of fun, but there's something extraordinarily satisfying and fulfilling. And people often ask me, well, what is your definition of success? And that is being fulfilled. So this is very fulfilling for me. So even though I'm working on something out of my wheelhouse, first of all, I'm going to prove to that person that nobody has to be stuck in a genre. I can write poetry if I want. I can do whatever I want, and so can anybody else. As long as it's positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing. I call that PUC. That's something that we hopefully are all have on our what is the motivation behind what we do? It should be positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing is my little mantra. But we can do, when people draw a line in the sand and say, stop there, question it. Question that. And if it's for your safety, wear your seatbelt, put on your motorcycle helmet, put on your bicycle helmet, these kinds of things. If it's positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing, don't go against the flow just because you can. I say, and it's what the quote out of my book that I'm going to be writing in people's books at the book launch party in July, is don't go with the flow or against it, create your own. And that's what I'm all about. Create your own. Don't, they say about if you're going with the flow, there's a good chance you're a dead goldfish floating belly up. If you're going against the flow, you might just be doing it because you can, or you're a renegade. Just do your own, create your own. And that's where I'm coming from.
I asked Laurie to discuss her background and career path, which has been both varied and yet somehow also fits together.
I had to go from GED to PhD, and I didn't get my PhD until 2 weeks before my 50th birthday. So, and that was a long time coming. So people take different paths. So let me back up just a little bit. I ran away from home when I was 15. When I ran away from home at 15 by myself, I got to Vancouver, Washington, and got a job, worked there for almost 6 years, and worked my way up through management.
The values instilled by this business and its founder made a big impact on Laurie's early work life. We'll come back to that later in the show. But next, Laurie moved on to the corporate world.
I worked at Hewitt Associates in Lincolnshire, Illinois, in the communication department. That was at the end of my career. I worked there 11 years. The first 7 was in recruiting, and the last of the 11 years was in communication. Loved them both. Absolutely loved them both.
Laurie enjoyed the work and education benefits of being at a large company, but a major life event intervened, changing the trajectory of her career.
That's why I went the avenue that I did. My mother was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 41, and she died when she was 53, when she was in remission. And so I saw on the oncology floor what was just astounding to me, good astounding, and the complete and total opposite of that astounding as well. Mm-hmm. And I thought there has to be a different way. There has to be. And that's why I went and became a holistic health practitioner, is because of what I saw. So my mom got the prognosis, and she had a radical mastectomy, and I saw what happened on the oncology floor. And then I learned about ontology. Ontology is the study of being. And I learned that first from Madeleine L'Engle. People know her from A Wrinkle in Time, A Swiftly Tilting Planet, Many Waters, but she wrote some nonfiction books too. And she wrote the Crosswicks Journals. And in there, she talked about ontology, not oncology, cancer, ontology, and the study of being. And that just really grabbed me. And so while traditional Western medicine hasn't figured out a cure for cancer, and integrative medicine, holistic medicine hasn't either, we can make a person's life less hideous while they're going through the cancer experience when they're integrated. There's so many things that traditional Western medicine kind of turns you upside down and inside out, and that then the shaking of the hands with the integrative things that makes it a little bit more smooth sailing. So that was a wonderful discovery. Happy to be able to share that with people who maybe have gotten the prognosis of, you've got this big C word coming down the pipe.
Life and work experiences have a funny way of coming together at different points in our lives. Remember the company where Laurie worked starting at age 15? While writing The Business of Being, Laurie went back to work for that same business as part of her research on the intersection of company and personal values.
So The Business of Being is a look at the intersection of business and spirituality. And what does that look like there? How can business help an individual be a better person? How can individuals help a business be a better business? And why is it important? That's here to be our best self and live our best life, both at work and outside of work, no matter where you are.
But what inspired you to write it?
Seeing a business that I had worked at when I was younger, I had totally forgotten about it, seeing that again and going, oh my gosh, from age 15 through 20, that was such a huge value to me. And so many wonderful corporate type seeds were planted that I wanted to know, would those corporate values translate in today's world to help my clients become better individuals, to work on that alchemy. And so I took a job at this store, this large, all under one roof store, and for 2 years. And I did my research, and they knew when they hired me that was my purpose. And I gave my 2-year notice the day I was hired. They knew full well. And I got to dig and research, and not just about that store, but that set me on a path for other stores as well. But this was being back in the trenches. What is that like? Seeing real customers coming in and going up and down the aisles, and being able to query them about their experience, being able to query other employees about their experience. Are these values just words on paper? Are they really implemented? And do you bring your best to work every day, by the way? That type of thing.
I'm guessing the values, when you started, that must have been a pretty strong part of that business, emphasized?
Absolutely. And in fact, interestingly, they are the same, even though this company's been bought by a bigger company, they've retained those same values. I was stunned. The original person who started the company, which I just won't name, the values are so strong and so well formulated that when practiced, they work really well. Now, having been bought by another company, that has changed a few things. Somebody asked me, if that original person that started the company was alive today, would he or she be pleased? And in some aspects, the answer is yes. The growth has just been phenomenal. But it's also been the growth that has maybe cut them off a little bit. And there are some aspects that would probably have him or her spinning in their grave.
When done well and executed well, they can have a big difference, or at least that's what I'm hearing from your story.
Absolutely. It boils down to, what is the motivation behind the value? The person who started the company that I'm talking about, it was very important to make a living, but not a killing. Huge, huge difference between making a living and making a killing.
Yeah.
That's where you're looking out for your clients and your customers.
You write that each of us is like a small business. How so? How are people like a small business, and how did you come about, kind of that line of thinking for the book?
So if we look at ourselves in light of that lens, PUC, positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing, what am I contributing. Not what was a one-time contribution in 1969 on a Friday. What is my ongoing daily contribution? And that's what a business has to do. They have to provide a contribution, something of value. So do people. It's what motivates us to do or refrain from doing something in both business and as a human being. These things are really valuable to look at. And some people want to take the time to have that interior landscape looked at, and some people don't. And that's okay too. I have to respect everybody's approach. But for me and for my clients who are the ones that are begging for these types of books, and there's lots, they have friends and family and on, they do like to take that closer look. And it is very much like a business. So we talked about values and how it could be a piece of paper. I did the research, and it's in this book about Enron. We all know who Enron is.
Yeah.
They had a wonderful set of values. Phenomenal. You read those values and you think, oh boy, howdy, how could anything go wrong? But that was a piece of paper. It was in a frame on a wall somewhere, and there was underlying motivation, and that ended up being greed. So it's the same in personhood. It's the same as in being a human being. What drives us? What motivates me to do or refrain from doing something? And refraining can be a good thing or not a good thing. And motivating to do something can be good and not good too. So you have to see what's the motivation behind it. When I was raising my son, or when we were raising our son, he, on an occasion he would say, "Hey, Mom, can I go do this?" And I would say, "Well, here, is it positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing? You figure that out. And if it's not, and you choose to do it anyway, there's consequences." And consequences are good, and consequences are not good. There's both kinds. It's called the boomerang effect. It's going to come back. Some people call it karma. I call it the boomerang effect, and it usually hits you in the butt. And so it comes back tenfold. So if you have this positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing motivation, and you do something, typically it comes back good. And likewise the opposite. So we've used that in our house for a very long time as a measuring stick. And I think that businesses can use it as well as individual people. That's my mantra. PUCK. Is it positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing? And what's your motive behind it? So to just have a piece of paper on the wall, that's not enough. Enron had a piece of paper on the wall, and it was definitely not enough. So we have to ask ourselves, we have to look inside. There's that alchemy again. What's going on inside? Not just how does it appear, because everything that glitters is not gold. We know that.
The story in The Business of Being is built around a restaurant, and I asked Laurie about the connection between food and business.
I thought, first of all, you have to keep a book a reasonable length. And I looked at all of the business plans can be 2 items long or 50 items long. And I took the 12 most popular aspects in a business plan. And I got to thinking, 12, that's a dozen. And my husband was a wine distributor. And I thought, wine and French food. And in a formal French restaurant, if you're getting a full French meal, a real deal, there's 12 courses. From your very first course to the coffee at the end, there's 12 courses. How can I do this? So I tell this story, and it's a real story. I really went and interviewed and talked, but I had to change everything up because they want to remain anonymous. And I tell this story using these 12 aspects of a business plan, and how they didn't just use it as a business, but individual. So we mixed values and virtues, corporate values and individual virtues, and it came out really, really cool. So I asked, my husband was very, very instrumental in helping me to pair it because he knows wine much better than I do. So we would find, are we talking about the dessert? Are we talking, which part of the 12-course meal are we talking about? What is a phenomenal, user-friendly, a recipe that someone would actually make, and what is a wine we could pair with it? So those are found throughout too. You've got 12 recipes, 12 wines that are paired, with each recipe. So there's 12 wines, 12 recipes, a fun story.
Why did you pick stories as your format?
I was privileged to have lunch with the Dalai Lama at Loyola University about 7 years ago. And that was quite one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But what he said to me stuck with me, and that was, he learns when he laughs. If he can laugh, it stays with him. So stories are similar to that. If this is enjoyable, if this is dry, like eating sawdust, you're not gonna. The idea is to have a hook at the beginning of each chapter, and then to have a cliffhanger at the end. So you're laying in bed and you're reading, and you come to this cliffhanger and you say, well, I'll just read one more. So then you start with a hook and you end with a cliffhanger. I'll just read just one more. And that's what I hope that I've accomplished here.
Knowing what you know now, thinking about your career, looking back on it, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't let yourself be held hostage by the opinion of others. Do not let yourself be held hostage by the opinion of others. And I think that I was held hostage. I allowed myself to be held hostage probably until my early 30s. And then I started getting smart. By my 40s, I didn't care anymore. I don't care unless I'm hurting you in some way. It's not that I don't care about you, but I'm not going to live my life based on your opinion of what I do and don't, that thing. So that would be my advice to my younger self. Do not let yourself be held hostage by the opinion of others.
Now, looking ahead, what is the next big thing you want to do? Are you looking at anything else?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be a grandma in September, my first time being a grandma, and I'm totally stoked about that. I'm so excited, and that's personal. But in the business world, as it relates to writing, I am going to, my heart is in the right place. I'm going to prove that person who said you have to stick in a genre, no, you do not. I want people to know that you can do whatever you set your mind to. And it doesn't mean that it's easy, but if it's worth it to you, you'll do the hard stuff. You'll do the research. But don't be limited by others. Don't put your own shackles on either, but for goodness sakes, if you decide to put shackles on, let them be your own, not somebody else's. Oh, my goodness.
What guiding principles do you use to test your motivations? Laurie Buchanan asks, is it positive, uplifting, constructive, and healing? By answering this question, she has built her career not by going with or against the flow, but by creating her own. Whether your career is your passion, a paycheck, or a pain, I hope today's episode has informed, inspired, and challenged your own relationship with work. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of So Called. If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know. Subscribe and leave us a review. So Called is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and wherever you get your podcasts. The Business of Being, Soul Purpose in and Out of the Workplace is available wherever you buy books. If you're buying locally in Boise, you can find it at Rediscovered Books downtown.